Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today discussing one of the most telegraphed announcements in all of games. Yes, 2 Nintendo videos in the course of a week. That's how much of a Sahara Desert we're in right now for the channel. Nice. But anyway, I wanted to talk about this Nintendo Switch Lite announcement that Nintendo made this very morning because I was thinking to myself on how much of a genius move it is right now and how it's exactly what they need. You know, when we talk about this little guy right here, it's always about the specs of the system. It's underpowered compared to current consoles. We have new consoles coming out next year, and obviously those are gonna blow this out of the water even more. And the Switch really lives off a lot of its excellent ports that come over from games of the past, but also some current gen ports. We see The Witcher 3 making its way to the Switch, and that's taking a severe downgrade. So you gotta wonder, how long does the Switch have to really continue that phenomenal success it has enjoyed? And I think naturally in the cards for Nintendo is a much more powerful Nintendo Switch, which is why I personally believe a game like The Witcher 3 can exist on the Switch. It works now in this current one, but it will be upgraded in a future version. However, when it comes to the Switch Lite, it fits for the market right now, and it's what Nintendo needs, which is a console that undercuts its current version, the standard version, at the holiday season and sells to a specific type of gamer, which is the handheld market. Now, I don't know about you guys, I won't speak for everybody. I exclusively play this Switch on handheld unless I'm streaming or unless I want to record a video. I almost never play this thing docked. I can remember the last time I did dock it was for my Mario and Rabbids review, and aside from that, for my Super Dragon Ball Hero stream. Those are the only 2 times within the time I've owned this console that I've docked it. Now, if you have friends over more often, then maybe you're docking your Switch a little bit more, but for me, I have a couple of friends, that's about it. So my Switch is always in my hands in my bed. It's awesome. More importantly is that the interesting statistic came out that last year, the 3DS only accounted for 5% of Nintendo's revenue. And as we know, the 3DS sold tons and tons, millions and millions and millions of units. So it really did its thing. It accomplished what it had to, meaning that now we have to fill in the gap because some people were not sold on the Nintendo Switch being this hybrid system. They just want handheld. And now we have a system that sells for $100 less at $200 retail for a handheld experience that can support all of the Switch's games. Now, it does come at the sacrifice of, for example, no HDMI cable, you can't dock it. Furthermore, it is a smaller screen, it's a little more compact. It does not support HD Rumble, it doesn't support Joy-Con motion sensors, which, for example, a Zelda puzzle would need. And Nintendo also mentions that for games that don't support handheld mode, players can connect wireless Joy-Con controllers, which are obviously sold separately, to the Switch Lite. In these cases, users will have to have a device to recharge Joy-Con controllers, which means that I believe since everything's connected in one piece for the Nintendo Switch Lite, that you pretty much have just a wire that plugs in and it charges the whole console rather than what we do nowadays where we dock this thing and it charges not only the 2 Joy-Cons, which can be used separately as controllers for other people, but also the console itself if you were to connect different Joy-Cons, I guess, and go play on the go. So it's interesting that it's all connected in one piece. But given that the 3DS was clearly shutting down, is now the perfect time to pick it up and unlock a handheld version for your most popular console. It's cheaper. It also has a traditional D-pad, which Nintendo already confirmed they're not going to be releasing a separate Joy-Con to have, so naturally third party will probably pick up the slack on that, but still quite a bit disappointing of a choice by them. We also know that the battery life is a little bit better by a half hour to an hour, which, you know, we'll take, but I personally expected a little bit better given the fact that this is a handheld console. And if I'm not going to be docking it, then that means I'm going to have to either play it or charge it. Some additional details are on the Nintendo Switch Lite website. Nintendo Switch Lite has integrated controls and is smaller than the flagship version of the Nintendo Switch. It has no kickstand and as a dedicated handheld gaming device does not support video output for a TV. Therefore, it does not come with a dock or HDMI cable. Now, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that I think some of these lesser specs are because they wanted to cut that price down as much as possible. And producing a dock, producing the HDMI cables, having that all come with the system, I think would ultimately have hiked it up a little bit more. But what we have here is a console at a very fair price and the perfect entry point, especially when Nintendo's putting it there in the holiday season. People who already own a Switch will probably get this. I don't know why, but I've already seen a lot of YouTubers putting it out there, and then their fans subsequently followed up and saying, hey, me too, which I don't get. I mean, I own a Switch already. I don't need the handheld version. To me, I feel like I have the superior one. I have the one with the bigger screen. I have one that can be docked and played on the TV if I want to like have a full-on marathon. Like, it doesn't appeal to me, but if you are shopping for, we'll say your granny, you're out in your local Walmart and you're just like, what can I get my kid? Then the Nintendo Switch Lite would really stand out to you, right? So I think that's what kind of market they're trying to hit, is the shopping for kids during the holiday season market, and also people who maybe didn't want to buy in at $300. I have a friend who loves all the games for the Switch but never bought in because of how it currently was, but he's very interested in the handheld version. So for some people, just that little switch in your brain, you know, flips on, you're like, I gotta get that. Ultimately, I'm not super hyped, but I can see why a lot of people are. For me, what's more appealing is a more powered up version of the Switch, because that's what I care about. The reason I love my Switch now is because A, it fills the void for my Vita. Rest in peace, I love that thing so much. But B is that it allows me to play console experiences in the comfort of my bed or on the go or at a friend's house. And I love that about my Switch. Naturally, it lives off its ports, as I said, and as games get more and more powerful and demand more from a console, the Switch can risk becoming obsolete. And that's my number one concern. It's great now, we're living in the now, that's where it's thriving. But I think a year or two from now is when the Switch may start to struggle a little bit, where these ports aren't going to be as frequent, where we aren't going to see as much third-party support unless they do announce a more powerful version of the Nintendo Switch. At that point, I will personally be very excited, because that means the continued support of something I've already been enjoying will go on. I don't want it to come to a halt. I really want to see the Switch live on and have a more powerful version. Now, what that will contain, I'm unsure, because you see the handheld version has become one whole console, where I wonder if, for example, Nintendo's going to do a Switch that is more powerful. Does it become a docked only experience? Are they going to go to that length to make sure that they provide the best experience? Because what is interesting is the reason it's called a Switch is because you dock it, you play on your TV, or you switch and you go to handheld mode. So I wonder if they're willing to sort of drop that mantra in the sake of being a competitive console, because as we all know, the Lite does not get docked, so it's just called the Switch Lite because it's under the Switch brand, not because it actually, as they say, switches. So I thought to myself, well, if they're gonna do a more powerful console, why not go all the way, make a fully docked experience that can support many games from the next generation instead of worrying about the handheld experience? Because then maybe, since the Lite undercuts all of the market so much, that you could generate some purchases on both ends for the handheld and for the console experience. But then it comes to the point of game cartridges. Do we have the same issue that produced with the 3DS versus the DS, where eventually games were only on the 3DS? Obviously, because the 3DS sold so well, that became less and less of an issue. But these are all talking points that are worth considering. Right now, the Switch is looking great. This is a genius move for their current situation. It keeps the Switch alive. It keeps fans happy. I think it sells a lot during the holidays. It's gonna be the best-selling console of the year, obviously, because we're ramping up for the next generation, so probably hardly anybody's buying PS4s or Xbox Ones. But also, I still have that worry in my stomach, and it's why I'm not so over the moon on this announcement, because I want to see them confirm the much more powerful version of the Switch. I think that is what will continue the future that we find so bright for Nintendo. Obviously, it seems like they're going to continue making those wonderful exclusives. I mean, can I get a hell yeah for this month? We got Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 and Fire Emblem. Oh my gosh, 200 hours of Fire Emblem. I'm going to cry. But anyway, all that's important is that we're gonna get those exclusives, so there will still be good games coming, but I wanna see that third-party support continue on, because that's kind of the hook with the Switch, is knowing like, oh, I could play Phantom Doctrine on my PC, or I could play the whole XCOM style experience on the go. And that sounds a lot more appealing. There's just something about it. It's a cool little, almost gimmick, I guess, but it works really well for the system, and if they wanna continue succeeding, I think that's the path they need to take. But anyway, right now, Genius move, and I think we're gonna see the Switch sell right off the shelves immediately. So that'll conclude my thoughts on... Who the fuck is calling me? Mom, I'm recording a video. Hello? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to wrap it up there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Nintendo Switch Lite. What do you think about this announcement? Is it enough to get you over the hump, make the purchase, or are you gonna wait for a more powerful version? Perhaps you're just not interested at all. Let me know in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.